Hello, welcome to my dining room. This is episode 35 of the Live and Learn Knitting Podcast. My name is Anne or Annie, and I'm coming to you from the banks of the Mississippi River in western Wisconsin. Today is Saturday, February 22nd. I am about a week late in doing a podcast episode. I try to do them every 2 weeks. So welcome. I'm glad you're joining me. If you haven't been here before, this is mainly discussion of knitting projects, but also some others. There'll be a little bit of other, a different project at the end. And because we all like to do different things and make different things. So it's creativity in general. And what I learned from my experiences, what I learned from my mistakes mostly, and also the live is, a little bit of life experience too. And today I do have a bit of a story to share with you, and we'll do that right away. So thank you for joining me. I appreciate all the lovely comments and likes and all of that you give, and it really brightens my day to see that. And the day is bright again. That's why we're on this side of the table. The sunshine over on that side of the table is just, it's beautiful. I could sit there and get a suntan maybe, but not the best for trying to record a podcast. So hopefully this will work. All right, so onward. Yeah, there was a little bit of living last week, which is one of the reasons why I'm a week late. Had just an extra experience. So I went down last Thursday to Iowa to purchase a an old cabinet, an antique cabinet to use as a kitchen island in my kitchen. And also the town that it happened to be in Iowa is where my friend Dixie lives. And Dixie and I worked not together in the same office when we worked, but we worked in different field stations. So we would get together at meetings and conferences and trainings and that. And she is a dear friend. And the teapots on here, those are from Dixie. She knows my taste and knows I like tea, and I have tea this morning. So I think this is, I brought the Yogi Sweet Clementine Stress Support. And I know I've had this affirmation before. It said, people who love are compassionate. And I know I've even had that on the podcast before. It's like, Yogi, come on, let's have some new affirmations. Although it's the same box of tea, so maybe I need to just buy a new box. Anyway, I digress. But so I went to visit Dixie, have lunch with her. I hadn't seen her in over a year, I think. So it was really good to catch up with her. And then I bought this cabinet, and I will show you a photo. I'll put a photo on the blog that might show this a little better. Ooh, now everything went pear-shaped because I touched it. So if you can see, I'll kind of get the glare away. I have a vintage inspired kitchen, very much so. I like old things such a lot, as you maybe have noticed. So I had this piece, and I had this piece, and this piece. These are all have been in there for years. And I had a little table here, a white drop leaf table with 2 red chairs, which was cute, and it really looked the part in this kitchen, but it was very dysfunctional. I almost never sat at it because I have this table here, which is just right next to it, next room over, that I sit at mostly. The chairs were not rickety, but a bit rickety. They needed to be re-glued, all of the pegs, and they weren't very comfortable. They were small. They were flat seats, not even that little scoop that they sometimes put in for your behind, So they were, and the table, as far as a work surface, it was too low. The drop leaves, when you put them up, they sort of slanted. You could never get them completely level. So it just, yeah, it wasn't very functional. And when I would go and visit my friends Jim and Kevin, they have a beautiful kitchen island that they made themselves out of a base cabinet, and then they got a custom-made countertop for it, and they put it up on a, they added a base to it. They did all kinds of extra things to this cabinet to make it this one-of-a-kind, unique kitchen island that I thought, oh, this is just perfect. I wish I had this. And so they were encouraging me to, try and find a cabinet like they did and do it myself. And sure, I sort of have the skills. But I've been looking for the last 3 or more years, 3.5 years. I've been looking for just the right cabinet, just the right something to fit there. And I had seen this one come up, and I thought, that could work. Actually, I had seen one right after Christmas that also could have worked, but it was a bit big. I had actually taped out the measurements on the kitchen floor, and it looked like a little crime scene in there, because it was going around the old table. And I kept kind of cutting across the edges, and I thought, oh my gosh, I can feel myself bumping my hip into this imaginary kitchen island that's not even here. It was just a little too big. And so I was hesitating, and then when I did kind of decide, well, the price is okay, maybe I'll get in touch with this person. Well, it was gone. So, okay, well, that meant it wasn't the right one. And then this one came up, and I thought, this is the right one. I could just tell, it would go so well. And look how well it goes with all the things in there. And asked for some more photos, asked for some, like, what's the back look like, since it's going to be freestanding and not up against a wall. They gave me good information, and I thought, yep, that's the one. Price was good. So I got in my car, and it had snowed the day before, and it's about how long did it take me to get there? 1.5 hours, I think, drive south of here. And they got more snow down there than we did up here. We got maybe 2 inches. It was light and fluffy and everything. And I knew they had gotten some more. So I drove down, and when I got into Iowa, my GPS took me on, none of the roads were gravel, which can happen in Iowa and some places in Minnesota too. You run into a town road that's just gravel. These roads were paved, but they were not plowed the best, and I couldn't always see the yellow line, even the center line. So I'm going along, and it was a beautiful day, beautiful sunny day like this, after the snow, everything kind of settles down. But I'm on unknown roads, unknown territory, and contrary to popular belief, Western Iowa especially is not flat and full of cornfields. It's very, very hilly and beautiful, just beautiful drive. I was just enjoying the drive immensely. But this one section I was on, these hills, I was going up and down, and at one point I was starting to come down off a ridge, and I see a road sign that I'm not sure I've ever seen before, not for a long, long time anyway. So it had a downhill arrow, hairpin turn, and the suggested speed is 25 miles an hour. I'm like, holy smokes. And this road is snow covered. It's not slippery, but it might be slippery if I was going faster. So I was I'm okay, 25, all right, let's see if I can do it. So I'm slowing way down, and you get a little further down this steep hill, and I don't remember if that's the one that said it was a 9% grade, or if that was the next one, but there was, it was a lot. And so I'm going along, going cautiously, and then the next sign you see, it says, by the way, could be a school bus stopping here too, just so you know. So I'm like, okay. So I made it around the hairpin turn, and it was a hairpin turn. Yeah. I would like to go on that road again, and like maybe in the fall when the colors are really pretty, or springtime when there's, wildflowers blooming or something, just to kind of see what it's like. And it was very pretty, but it was, I don't want to say dangerous. Probably could have been, but I wasn't worried that way, but just, made you pay attention, that's for sure. So yeah, I was on some of those kind of roads, and that just adds to the journey, So I got to Monona, where this was, and picked up my cabinet and saw Dixie, visited with her. We had we had a really good lunch at a local place there, and then went back to Dixie's place and visited for a while. Drove back a different way because I'd had enough. And it's funny because then I went and cut over to Prairie du Chien, which is in Wisconsin, so I crossed over there. But on my way from Monona back towards the river, yeah, that's when I saw another. I was on a main highway, big highway, all dry, all clear, but we were coming down a steep hill, and there was one of those. You don't see these too often around here. They had one of these runaway semi ramps, where it kind of runs off of the road and up into the hill a bit, so in case they're out of control, they can stop. And it's like, holy smoke. The last time I saw one of those was in Colorado. And it's like, japers. Okay. Glad the roads are dry. So that was an adventure. And, got my cabinet home. My neighbor helped me carry it into the house. It wasn't super heavy, but it was bulky. And I like that island. Now I'm going to call it my island. I like it because it's on wheels, on casters, so I can roll it around and move it out of the way if I need to. And during the pandemic, the woman who teaches yoga, she was doing her weekly class online. So the kitchen was my only big floor space where it was flat, and on the carpeting it's a bit unstable. So in the living room, so I was moving the table every week and setting the computer on it to watch her yoga class. And now I thought, wow, I can do my exercises again in the kitchen if I want to, so that's a good thing. So and I do have to, the back of the cabinet is unpainted, and I've got a plan for putting some beadboard on the back of it and painting that to match the white front of the cabinet. I might sneeze here. We'll see. Anyway, that's the plan. So I have a little work to do with it, and also to kind of figure out what's going to go in there. And if I can eliminate, there's another small table in the kitchen that has, really right now, it's just a catch-all for a lot of mess. And it was also holding the toaster oven underneath it, because I have no counter space for a lot of things. So I have to store appliances away, like the toaster oven, the mixer, all that kind of stuff. Bring them out. So now I can put the toaster oven in that island. Maybe I could get rid of this little table and free up a little more space. Or I could clean the darn little table off and make it look cute again. But it does kind of look like it's more in the way than functional, if that makes any sense. So it's time. Good spring cleaning project there. So that's my living, and that was a lot of fun. And now I'm going to talk about why I'm calling this episode Small Things Part 3. Because I have two small finished objects for you this week. I'm calling them palette cleansers because I'm working on Kathy's Pravda sweater, and I tell you, why it's a palate cleanser is because after the last episode, after I confessed all of my tragedies with all the false starts and the mishaps and the twisted ribs and the frustration, and now it's going well. Once I got the whole yolk finished and I talked about it, I set it down and I haven't worked on it until yesterday. So we took a little break, the Pravda sweater and I, and we're going again. I picked it up and got started on it because Kathy might come through town on Monday. And if she does, I asked her if she could stop and try on the sweater. If she's coming near. So if she wanted to swing by and try it on. I haven't heard if that's going to happen or not, but I needed to get it to a better try-on point for her. So I had to do a lot of math and reverse engineering to get the right numbers to split for sleeves. And that was harder than I expected because I had shifted size so many times. And, I looked back and it's like, okay, this is what the body should have. And here, anyway, I got it. And they had suggested casting on 17 stitches for the underarm. That's a lot. That's way more than I usually do. And this is a bulky yarn, and the gauge is 4.5 stitches. And I actually was remeasuring the gauge after I finished the color work. Impossible to see in that yarn because it's so fuzzy. And I could put it in the bright light, and I couldn't see it because the fuzz was just all lit up. I could put it in that bright light, and I couldn't see it because the light wasn't bright enough. It was so frustrating to try and measure. You couldn't see the stitches. I could see them if I held them away, but when I brought them close up, it all just kind of blended together. And well, how can you count, little stitches that far away? It was very challenging. So I'm in between a 4 to 4.5 stitches per inch. So I was, doing multiple calculations so that I stayed in that ballpark, and I think it's good. So I split for sleeves, and I worked a bit on the yoke until I ran out of that particular ball of yarn. Didn't join anything new because, it's always easier to try a sweater on if you don't have a lot of yarn tails hanging off of it. I might add some more, we'll see. I added a ball and started a sleeve down because having those big openings for sleeve, Andrea Mowry talked about this several months ago, and I agree, it's a good idea. If you have that big arm opening and you haven't picked up your underarm stitches and started a bit of a sleeve, this armhole side can be misleading when you try it on. So I've got a sleeve going. I will do the other one as well, partway, and it is so dry here. I've been taking apart those failed attempts at casting on, and it is so dry, and that yarn is so fluffy and staticky. It's flying all over the place, and it was really hard to pull it apart. And I know they say you can put mohair in the freezer. I don't even think this has mohair in it. It's alpaca, merino, and nylon. I don't think there's mohair in it, but it is fluffy. I didn't put it in the freezer. I could do it. It wasn't really, the only place it was getting snaggy was at the provisional cast on, that other yarn, that trying to pull that out of there was where it got a little snaggy. And I just had to sit there with I take usually a knitting needle and, kind of pick at that a bit and loosen it up that way. And that helps. But it took a long time to get that undone. And I undid 2 of them. So yeah, onward with that project. But boy, it needed a break. I needed a break from it. So this is one of my breaks, and this cowl, maybe you can, I'll take it off and show you. This is the coffee break cowl from Elizabeth Smith, and it's a new pattern that she just put out, and I saw it, and I am on a cowl kick, especially this bandana shaped cowl. I have an idea for one, and it's not coming together right now. So I saw hers and I thought, oh, that's clever, and it's just garter stitch. Maybe I could figure it out. And I was trying to kind of look at what she, look at her photos and go, well, what'd she do there? And I thought, just buy the pattern and then you'll know what she did. And that's what I did. And let me tell you something. Elizabeth Smith, wow. Her patterns. George is coming to give the editorial. Her patterns are just amazing. I had a few of them in my library, and I didn't realize it because I haven't made them yet. I had the coffee bean, I think that's what it was called, the coffee bean sweater, which was a toddler sweater, baby sweater. That one, and there were a couple others that are already in my library. But this one, yeah, it's just cleverly written, explicitly written, and she's got so much helpful information on making this. Her version, for example, was for a worsted weight yarn. The yarn that I used, and I love this yarn. This is Utopia, Deja Vu, Utopia from down in Viroqua, the fiber mill, the yarn shop, fiber mill. It's their Deja Vu yarn, and Deja Vu is a yarn that is all of the leftovers from milling that they do. So all the leftovers are then reprocessed together and made into yarn. So this can have, it's an unknown blend of wool, alpaca, mohair, angora, and different varieties of wool. You don't know. It's just whatever's going on, and they gather it up and they mill it and then they kettle dye it, and look at how beautiful. This was a limited colorway that they did last summer as a fundraiser, and it feels, I have not washed and blocked this yet because I only used half the skein, and I've got another project to show you here of what I'm doing with the other half. So I'll wash them both together. But even so, right now, and I've a bunch of us bought skeins for this fundraiser. So I think I'm the last one in my little group to make anything out of this, out of my yarn. I've felt the other projects, the other ladies, when they finished theirs and washed them, how soft they got. But this feels soft already. So this yarn, though, is described as an Aran weight. And I thought, well, okay, worsted Aran, I'll just maybe have to stop a little sooner. And in the photos, Elizabeth's cowl looks bigger and, like has more coverage. And I really didn't want that. I wanted something smaller. In her pattern, she says how to adjust for different yarns. Wonderful. She's got a whole section on substituting in other yarns. Other yarn suggestions that are worsted weight, and then how to make the pattern if you're using a completely different weight of yarn. And she shows, like, the important thing is to measure, when you're working around, before you join in the round, because you start out working back and forth, and before you join, you need to measure, and this is the critical edge. And she shows you with a photo exactly where to put your tape measure and how to measure this. So helpful. Then, joining at the back. You'd think a pattern would just say, join in the round and work, garter stitch in the round. No. Elizabeth gives you, I think it was a 6-photo tutorial, step-by-step photo of how you're going to join this in the round, what you're going to do, how you're going to manipulate the stitches to join in the round. Wonderful. I mean, because it's a beautiful crystal clear join that has no, it's locked tight together. There's no lump or bump or anything like that. yeah, it was a lovely join, and not a join that I had done before. And so she had these, 6-step photo tutorial. Not only that, she said, I know these thumbnails in this printed pattern PDF are small, so here's a link. Go to this link on her blog, I believe it was, or her website, that shows those photos blown up full size. So you could just go step by step by step. Super. I was just so impressed with this pattern. And then the other crucial measurement is, of course, this length measurement. And she talks about that too. Yeah. I mean, just a little pattern, and it was just so detailed. And the thing about it is, I've designed some hats and other things, scarves, and and friends have said, well, why don't you write up the pattern for that? That's nice. And I've thought about it. And I thought, well, I did this little thing that's different, and I did that little thing. How do I explain all that without the pattern being 40 pages long to make something like this, and be so wordy that people get lost, that your tips and hints, because obviously I'm wordy, right? You know that by now. So how do I express all that in a concise manner? Well, Elizabeth Smith has it figured out. It was just wonderful. And I emailed her and I said, because when I went to the blog, the website, to look at the tutorials and that she had on there, and was blown away, there was a contact spot. And so I sent her a message and I said, this is amazing. I love this pattern. I love all of the details you give. It's just so thoughtful and well presented and everything. And she got back to me and she's, well, thank you. She appreciated the kind words, and we, it was a good little email conversation there. So yeah, I would definitely recommend Elizabeth Smith's patterns. There are quite a few. I do remember when the coffee bean sweater, I think that's what it was called, it came out. It was a very popular pattern on Ravelry. But I think over the years, maybe she has not been featured in the limelight as often as other designers. And she should be, because she's putting a lot of work and effort into these patterns. And they make sense. We are looking at, I told my knitting friends about this on Wednesday, and so yeah, now we're all kind of looking, well, some of us are looking at other Elizabeth Smith patterns to make. There's an Audrey, there was a kid's Audrey vest or sweater, and then there was an Audrey cardigan, and now there's an Audrey vest for adults. And that just came out, I believe, at the end of 2024. I'm looking at the Audrey cardigan because it uses a chunky weight yarn, and I do have some chunky wool to use up. So that might be a possibility. She didn't put pockets on her cardigan, but I was looking at some of the project notes on the Audrey cardigan, because I thought, oh, do I have chunky or do I have more worsted? What would I use? And someone had done it in a worsted weight wool, and they explained that they contacted Elizabeth for how should I adjust for this, and she gave them a whole, detailed instructions on how to adjust their cardigan for the worsted weight rather than the chunky. So very good pattern support, and that's so important. So definitely worth checking out. And I will link all of this in the show notes below and put them on the blog, which, by the way, is livelearnknit@blogspot.com. livelearnknit.blogspot.com. It'll all be down below, all the links. So I said I'm going fast today. Sorry if I'm going too fast, but I've got a lot to do today. So, and the sun is out, and I haven't had some caffeine. Maybe I just feel like I have. Anyway, The rest of the ball, I am making, I think I showed this pattern once before. I thought, well, I will make a headband kind of to go along, maybe not so much, but just to, it should be enough. This is a similar headband that I've made, and I think I've showed this in the past. I'm not 100% sure. I think I have. This is a drops pattern. Maybe. I mean, it is. It's on the drops website. I think we're finding out, you know, that drops uses other people's patterns. I have not seen it show up as anyone else's pattern though. So, but it was also published in Creative Knitting magazine in September of 2010. And I have all their issues. That's where I saw it first. I have all their issues. And at one point, they offered that you could get an electronic subscription as well as the print. And so I have all of their issues as PDFs as well, which is kind of handy because I was just able to print out the couple pages that I needed for the pattern. Here they call it Ski Bunny. I believe Drops calls it the Rings of Saturn or Saturn's Rings or something like that. I really like it because you start back here. I do a provisional cast on. I do a little bit of different stuff with it just to not have to sew this together. I graft it at the end. So I start with a provisional, I purl a row, then I go into the ribbing pattern. And basically this happens because you're increasing in the purl ridges. And then you get to your halfway point. You're still knitting even for a bit, and then you start decreasing in the purl ridges. You get back to and then I knit a row, and then I have 2 knit rows to graft together. So it's quick. It takes about 50 grams of yarn to do, more or less. Yeah, I've made several of them. I like wearing it. This one, this is why I didn't do anything special with my hair today, because I was going to be putting things on my head. So this one actually covers most of my head. There's just a small amount that's not covered. I do notice when I go outside, though, if it's very cold, that small amount that's not covered is cold. So it's not the best substitute for a hat in deep winter, but it's good in the fall. And I can actually, this one, I like to wear, and I'll tell you this, the next project also, I like to wear earmuffs, those close, you know, not the fashiony earmuffs, but the functional, sporty earmuffs. And so this will fit over the earmuffs too. So it won't hurt me to have an extra one of these and match this. So that's what I am working on with the rest of this yarn. And I think I'll have enough. I'm kind of watching it, see where I get to my halfway point. And I do that. And then, oh, that wasn't even on the, wasn't even on my notes to talk about. Oh, well. So, yeah, so there's that. And I'm doing this now in between the Kathy, the Pravda sweater. I like to alternate. Like, I've got I have a program to watch this afternoon or late morning on TV. And on YouTube, actually, it's a live stream. And so I'll do, you know, a couple rounds on the Pravda, and then I'll do like one shaping section on this, you know, and back and forth and back and forth. And sometimes, especially on a Sunday, if like, oh, I'm just gonna knit all day, I will lay out maybe 4 or 5 projects like that and just kind of pick one up and alternate. And that's why I never get anything done really quickly, but you know, a lot of things get worked on this much. And that's why I don't like to show you whips, because I got this much more done. Big deal. So the other project, and Helen Maudsley, I hope you're watching. because this is your yarn she sent me. My friend Helen from she's from Western Canada. Western Canada. A beautiful, beautiful place Helen lives. But she sent me this yarn, I think it was last winter. And I'm going to show you a photo of it because I don't have any more in the ball. It was this Peyton's Croy. Oh, cancel that. Peyton's Croy sock yarn. And you can see there's some stripy colors, and then there's that section that's the black and white blips. And a lot of sock yarns have that, in their self-striping patterns. They have those blippy sections. And when they first started making those types of yarns, that was very, popular. I mean, that was it. And it was kind of fun to make those. And I think on the podcast, maybe on the sock episode when I talked about Croy, maybe that's why Helen sent me the yarn. I'm trying to remember the time frame and I can't really. But I do like Peyton's Croy sock yarn. It's a bit sturdier than other sock yarns. So, Helen kindly sent me 2 skeins of that yarn. And I looked at it and I'm like, thank you, thank you, thank you. In my head, I'm thinking, I'm kind of over that blippy sock yarn. But I like those shades, but I'm over those blips. Well, I never put the yarn away, which is a good way for yarn to get used up here because I see it. If I'm walking by it upstairs, it's like, there's that yarn. What am I going to do with that? There's that yarn. And then all of a sudden an idea comes to me. So I should never put any yarn away, right? Yeah, no. But it is true, out of sight, out of mind. When I was trying to think of, well, what chunky yarn do I have for this Audrey cardigan? I couldn't think of anything because it's not just sitting out where I can see it. It's all boxed away. So I had to kind of look at my Ravelry stash and, forgot all about that because I don't see it. Anyway, I digress. So Helen sent me that yarn and and I go on a spurt where I make socks and then I don't make socks for a while. And I thought, well, I guess I'll have to wait till I'm on my sock spurt again. But I just not loving the blips. But what should I do? What should I do? Well, I had a hat. Oh, I can find a photo of the hat. Let me see if I can do it while I was talking. I had a hat that I made several years ago as a nightcap, a house hat, in between, something I could wear when it's cold. And it was made out of sock yarn. Here it is right here. Whoops, blip, full screen. Oh, come on, Ravelry. So is this right here? Again, see all the blips? Yeah. So that's Cervinia sock yarn, and that was 150-gram ball. Made that hat, and let me show you. It's sort of basically just a pixie shape. And I started at the top, increased every other round 4 stitches till I got to my head circumference, and and knit. And you can see all of the. Sorry about the window glare. It's just sort of might have been called confetti. This yarn. I think it was called Forever Jacquard. But I wore that hat a lot, especially in bed at night when it's cold in the winter. Because my house, the bed is right by a window, and, even though they are sort of insulated, I still feel the cold air on my head. So I wore that hat a lot, and I can't find it. And I'm not sure if I lost it when we went and knit under the full moon, because I might have had it that day. So did I drop it on the ground at the park? Maybe. Did I stuff it in a project bag that I had with me that night and I haven't used since? Maybe. Did I take it in the car and it's under the car seat? Maybe. Is it somewhere in the house here? Maybe. Have I looked really hard for it? No. Because if I turn stuff upside down, I'm not going to find it. I'm just going to get frustrated. So I should go out to the park and ask if anyone's turned in a hat to Lost and Found. If that's where I dropped it, I'd like to think that maybe a raccoon has it now and is wearing it or enjoying it. Took it home for a, cozy little nesty thing. Who knows? Who knows? But, I decided that maybe I just need to, it might just be gone. So I was going upstairs, doing back and forth and cleaning up a bit up there. Cleaning up. Yeah, right. Anyway, I saw the yarn and I thought about it and I thought, I do need another hat like that. Why don't I just use that yarn? Well, there's 2 balls. I only really need 1 ball. Why don't I just use that yarn? I don't like those blips. Why don't I just use that yarn? So what I decided to do was to use the yarn, and every time I came to a blip section, I would cut it out. And I would just make the stripes. And I hoped that that wouldn't be too annoying. And guess what? It wasn't. It wasn't. So let me put this on properly, if I can. George is snoring, by the way, if you hear George snoring, because that's what he does. So here is my new night hat. And, a la Dickens' A Christmas Carol, I decided to go one better and use the blip yarn for a tassel. Look how cool that turned out. Isn't that fun? So I started up here with my 8 stitches cast on. And of course, when you on fewer stitches, the stripes are very wide and then they get narrower. And as we've heard, I think you've probably heard it too, when you're working on a narrow circumference, your gauge is a little snugger than when you're down here working, on more stitches. So I'm measuring my gauge up here, and this is just a hat. And I measured my gauge, and I looked at my other project, which was 144 stitches, and I'm pretty sure, though, that was on 0 needles. This is on 1 needles. This yarn is beefier, even though it's still a sock yarn. So I did less stitches. I think in the end I could have done even 8 stitches less, like maybe, this much less, and been happy with it. But I don't want a hat, especially a nightcap, I don't want it to fit too tightly. I just don't want it to fall off or fall down over my eyes a lot. So now, as I said with this headband, I like to wear it over my earmuffs. Well, this one, I was worried that this was coming out too big, but I didn't want to go back and undo it because of all of the cutting. And, I had been weaving in my ends as I went because there were going to be a lot of them, and there are. I'll show you the inside. So I didn't really want to take it apart, and I thought, well, it'll either be for me or a giveaway or I'll sell it or something if it's too, or charity hat, if it's too loose. And it's not really. It's just right. It's just right. So I'm really happy with it. At the bottom, I did a purl ridge and I did a hem, and I used the blippy yarn as the hem so that I could use every amount of the nice stripy bits for the outside of the hat. And I'll show you inside. You can see all the ends I had to weave in. It was not like every color that there was a blippy section in between. Like it was funny because this red, this dark red at the top had just a small amount, and then the blippy color, and then a lot larger amount of the red. And then it went into the medium red and even went into the purple a bit. And then it changed, you know. So, or it changed right before the purple. Yeah, it changed right before the purple, but then it went from purple to this orangey pumpkin before it changed again to the blip. So it was very random. Well, not, you know, not completely random, but it was not every color change. And of course, you know, there are little jogs of where the stripes, I don't mind that, you know. And you've got other blips of color coming up into the stripes. That's fine. Here you've got blips of where my where I sewed it, you know, wove the end in, poking through. That's okay. I'm loving the colors. Helen, thank you. Thank you so much for this yarn. It taught me things. It was actually a pleasure to knit. I think, you know, I used the blippiness to its advantage. And I'm going to put it back on. And yeah, the tassel. My tip for these tassels is I take I have several small hardcover novels that I just wrap it around, and then I kind of cut across the top of where the yarn is on the book. It gives me a little ridge to cut through. And usually those small books of poems, or it's like usually Wordsworth's poems or something, they're just right for wrapping and making tassels. And it's funny because it's it looks off, but see, I probably could pull it way down over my eyes if I really wanted to. I couldn't do that, yeah. But it doesn't feel like it's going to fall down like that. So, yeah, I'm very happy with it. And my friend asked me, well, what's the point of the tassel? And I thought, well, cat toy? You know, here, kitty, kitty, come play with me before bed. I don't know. So I'm very, very happy with it. And I wore it the other day out and about, and it was nice and cozy. So I hope I don't lose it. And I thought, okay, all it's taking now to find that other hat, if it is here, is to finish this one, right? And wear it and like it. And the other one will appear. Maybe today even, because I'm going to try and do some house cleaning today and clutter cleaning. Put away some of my messes, and, you know, it might show up. So that's about it for me. I talked about Kathy's sweater, talked about this hat. Thank you again, Helen. I appreciate it. I'm going to make sure you take a look at this episode. Here's my one non-knitting thing. I don't know if I've spoken about this before. And I'm trying to remember the specific project even. I don't think it wasn't a knitting thing. It was, well, recently, I used to dye yarn a bit and fiber a bit when my friend Patrice and I were learning all of these things, and she dyed a lot of her hand spun and her yarns. So we were into dyeing. So I had a lot of dyes and such. And I had this was actually a t-shirt that I didn't like the color of very much. It looked like it was camel because it was sort of that olive green and all over print to it that made it look like camel, but it really wasn't. And I like olive green. I like wearing that color, but I didn't want to look military. So I decided to over dye that t-shirt, and it worked. I dyed it something like this color over the green, and it worked fine. And it's just an out work shirt, you know, it's not anything special. So that made me remember that, yeah, you can over dye stuff. And we've over dyed yarn in the past, and it's fun. So a couple years ago, when I had lost more weight, now I've gained, you know, I've said I've gained some of it back. So when I was a few pounds lighter, I was bringing out old things out of my closet, and I'm always on the lookout now for dresses, especially dresses with pockets. Well, I had made this dress back in the 80s, and I was going to bring the sewing pattern down. I didn't. This is either, I think it was a McCall's pattern, quick sew, something like that. And it's very sheer looking, isn't it? Because it's kind of worn out. But it was very easy. It's just, you can see there's not even a sleeve. It's, you know, this is all one piece. And actually, the front is all one piece. The back is all one piece. You just have side seams on. It's a quick sew. So you just have side seams. And yeah, I made this many years ago. It does have deep side pockets, and they, you know, very deep. I could put my phone in there and they wouldn't fall out. How you made the elastic waist was you sewed in, lots of messy ends there, because, you know, this was the 80s, but you sewed in a bias tape as a casing, and then you fed your elastic through that. Very clever. And yeah, it had these ties at the top to, you know, tie the V-neck shut. So I really did get a lot of use out of this dress many years ago. And I tried it on, I don't know, the waist looks tiny now because it's all scrunched together. I haven't tried it on recently. I think it might still fit. But yeah, I thought, why am I not wearing this dress? It's got all of the components that I like, and it's comfortable, for one thing, you know, and it'd be a good summer dress. Why I'm not wearing it is because of the color. And maybe more than the color, you know, the cutesy little flowers, because I'm not 19 anymore, you know. The Laura Ashley era of cutesy little flowers and that is kind of over, and I mean, it's pretty, but no. So I thought, well, Anne, why don't you just over dye that dress? And I did still have some fabric scraps. And this fabric, I'm looking, I've got a piece here with the selvage on it. It's Wamsutta, which I remember Wamsutta from sheets. I think this is a cotton poly blend, and it's actually got some slubby thick bits to it. Maybe they'll show up when I show you this. So I over dyed a scrap of the fabric. And you can see scrap because, like, there's where I cut out my pattern pieces. Look, that's thin too. I think it's just a thin fabric from the get-go. But can you kind of see the slubbiness? Yeah, you can, of the weave of this fabric. So here's the color that I dyed it. And what that does is kind of just tone down all those little floral bouquets. It puts some more tone on tone. So I did this, it's funny, I think I did this 2 years ago, did the sample. And then I thought I over dyed the dress. Oh, I never did. I went upstairs, maybe it was last summer, and was looking for the whole dress dyed up in this color, and I couldn't find it. I thought, what the heck? Where is it? Where is it? Couldn't find it. And then when I was cleaning up there not too long ago, I found the dress. Oh, I never did dye it. So that's on my to-do list, to dye this dress so that I can wear it this summer. I don't think it would make a good dress really to wear in the wintertime over anything else, you know, to be warm. It's not that kind of a layer, but it will be. I'm going to get it ready for summer. And one reason, we're getting up to the hour mark. I'm sorry about that, even though I'm talking fast. I got this book, Make, Think, Mend, and it's Katrina Rodabow, and she wrote Mending Matters, which I did not buy a copy of, and I'm kind of sorry I didn't, because now they're a bit spendy, even on used book scene, so I'm trying to find one. But she's got all of this in here: stitch, patch, darn, plant dye, and love your wardrobe. And now this is not plant dye, but I'm using up dye that I have. So make do and mend. Make do with what you have. I have dye. I have a dress. I don't even have to mend it. It's not ripped or torn. So I'm going to make use of this dress that is 40 odd years old. And I still have that sewing pattern, and I think I might make another one. Yeah, I might just do that too, because I like it. We'll see. After I wear this one a time or two, we'll see. And then I might make another one. So this, yes, Make, Thrift, and Mend. I just got this book. I'm just starting to look into it, but it's basically this kind of an idea. So if you're following along with Maker's Bingo, and if you can still request a card, please do. And this is going all year. If we last a year, I hope so. These days, we just don't know. But look, I actually X'd some things off. So, yeah, I'm not sure where this would fit in, over dyeing, because it's not really repurposing. It's the same purpose. It's a dress. But I would figure out if it fit in here anywhere. It might not. And I might have a couple more of these done. I just was trying to, finish a whip. I could cross. I am trying not to double dip on these, and I suggest that is, have I told you any of our rules yet in real life? No. I mean, wrote them all down? No. But I would say don't double dip if you can absolutely help it, because we've got a year and a lot of making to do. So, I mean, you could double dip with other make-alongs and that, but like on your card, if something goes into a couple different categories, try to just use it in one. Anyway, that's the, Maker's Bingo going on all year, and I've gotten a couple prizes together for the March. We'll draw at the end of March. I've only gotten a couple responses from people on that they're doing the bingo. Maybe it's not as popular an idea as I thought it would be. But if one person wins all the prizes, that's okay. It's partly my fault because I'm not as active on the Ravelry group that I set up as I wanted to be, and I need to get to do that. And yeah, I will try harder. You try harder too, okay? Oh, anyway, because this is all fun. It's just for fun. So that's our show for today, folks. I am going to carry on. I'm going to do cleaning today. The sun is inspiring me. I think maybe that's why I talk fast, because it's just so nice and bright. And you can see it's coming around again. Yeah. It's right behind me, blowing this out probably. But, yeah, I'm going to do some cleaning, some organizing. I've done baking and cooking for the last week or so, and that's been fun too. But I think I can take a break and do some other things, do some making, all the good things. So I don't have a inspirational quote to end with today. I had thought of one in my head a couple days ago. That's a bad place to put things. So I would just say, be kind to one another. We need that now more than ever, I think. And enjoy your making. And that's it. Okay? More next time. Thank you. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.